also be done with it. This is a really tough place to be in week 7.
And Uncle is giving us an I am error.
Uh-oh. Bomb capacity upgrade. I hope that's not a sign of a bomb start.
You know what? I always like bomb starts, though. Okay, I take it back. I like watching bomb starts. In terms of playing them, yeah, they would be horrible. But watching bomb starts are always interesting because you really can tell who has practiced and who hasn't practiced the bomb strats.
That's a good point. It seems like after doing a lot of these standard run races, most of what we do now in Escape is talk about bomb farming strategies. So when they get the bombs, it's kind of a wait and see to get to Kakariko.
And we have a Cane of Samaria sink, stealing our uncle's cane as he lies there hobbled in the middle of the sewers. Cane of Samaria is interesting. It does absolutely terrible damage, but it is at least relatively efficient when it comes to the magic usage.
Yeah, it does fighter sword damage, but you can push the blocks around, and I think you get like 3 or 4 hits with the block. Definitely will let you stretch that magic out quite a bit.
All right.
It's
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just filling. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to go ahead and talk about what we were talking about earlier. There's been some interesting theory crafting, as you said, about who might get in at the 4 and 3 levels. One of the kind of side projects I've been working on, as we see Solski picks up Moon Pearl.
Very nice find there.
Absolutely. So if you look at it, the way the tiebreakers end up going for those 4 and 3, and there's only going to be 2 4 and 3s that get in to the bracket stage of the tournament. The first level is going to be based on your tier 1 tiebreaker, which is going to be the strength of your opponents at that point. So it's effectively your opponent's record throughout the entire Swiss stages. As of right now, the 3 runners who are 4 and 3 with the highest opponent win percentage right now are In the Name of DT at 0.65, El Tigre at 0.639, and Weighty Words at 0.611. So those 3 would be kind of the top 3 at this point in time. The interesting thing, Solski is actually at a 0.667 opponent win percentage right now. So yes, winning you're in, but right now, if the bracket stages ended today and Solski did end up losing this race, he would have the highest opponent win percentage among the 4 3s. He might still very well be in the brackets.
That's really interesting. I know that the cutoff was potentially 2 to 4 people. We know it's 2 at this point.
Oh, Samu and T-Stu lost. I had just tried to check that, so I just want to make sure. T-Stu lost, and Samurai Man. Samurai Man has the highest at 0.695. So if he lost, the challenge may not have been updated. That's actually really interesting information because Samurai Man is tied for the highest percentage. So if he ended up losing earlier, then that would change that math right away.
So as far as strength of your opponent's concerned, that's pretty much saying like if week 1 when the seeding was completely random, if you lost to somebody who ends up being 7-0 in the end, you're going to get a higher score than if you went versus somebody who ended up being like 1-6.
Absolutely. All it does is take a look at everyone that you've raced against and adds up their current win-loss percentage. Now, because everyone in the 4 and 2 bracket is they're facing the same opponents, you can take a look at they're all facing someone who is 4 and 2 this week, so there's not going to be any shuffling amongst the 4 and 2s at this point in time. So you can kind of take the week ending of everyone who is 4 and 2 and kind of calculate the math out of there. But no, thank you, chat. That's actually really interesting. If Samurai Man ended up losing, because he was tied for the highest opponent win percentage. He did have he was tied with like 3 or 4 other people as well. I believe Data World had this T2 tiebreaker, but he won. We still have Nikki Noel and Fentalis, who would have tiebreakers over Samurai Man in that. But with only 2 places, if it's both Samurai Man and T2 both lost, that would get those first 3 that I talked about out of it.
So, pending an unforeseen last-minute dropout at the higher tiers, it is finalized as 2 positions at this point?
Absolutely, yeah. Those races were decided earlier. One of them was Gamer Cal, who did end up beating one of the 5-1s, and that was kind of a pair down. And the other one was Sinhei, who did end up winning his match. So,
excellent. Well, that's very good analysis. It's nice insight on this particular race for Solski. Solski, I just noticed he just picked up his first bomb here, and almost at the end of Escape.
Yeah, so that's good news for Solski right there. Absolutely. Although I need to point out, I'm looking at the chart right now. Samu and Samurai Man and T-Stu, although both Solski and T-Stu have 0.667 tier 1 tiebreaker, and Solski has a slightly higher tier 2 tiebreaker. That's your opponent's win percentage. So if Solski and T-Stu are for that second tiebreaker, Solski has a 0.59 and T-Stu has a 0.567. And let me see if I can do some quick dirty math here. I hate doing math during broadcast because I feel like I'm missing out on a lot. I mean, we've gotten Moon Pearl. Okay, that's it. We've got a Moon Pearl in a jar. So that's it.
Yeah, there's those 7 minutes to kill during Escape. Not too much happens. It'll get a little busy once we get to Kakariko, I'm sure. So I've really, in general, I think I've been happy with the standard randomized sword mode. This was introduced specifically in version 29, and this is the first tournament to use it. It makes the game a little bit more like open in that you're not guaranteed a sword. I think there's flippers up there on Graveyard Ledge. That'll be interesting.
Yeah,
but
that's really good.
Yeah, the biggest downside. Some people will call it a downside, some people will call it an advantage, is that everyone's forced to walk through the same 6-minute escape sequence. So that's one less location you can gamble. It does mean that you have a fairly standard opening 6 minutes, though.
It is a relatively standard opening 6 minutes, but you can, the advantages that you can gain by being efficient with those 6 minutes. For example, like what I was saying, those bomb strats. The difference between someone who is extremely practiced in those bomb strats versus someone who's just trying to wing it is a good 1.5 to 2 minutes. And any speed runner will tell you that's a lifetime. So it still offers some variation, and I think it's better for those people who are more execution focused, in my humble opinion.
That's a good point. There's a little bit less gambling on not having to go to Escape. And I remember in the open tournament, there were a lot of races where people wouldn't go to Escape for a very long time, and that was just one other location that you just judged based on items per minute. But we found the book there in Kakariko so far, so that's one thing that is going to give us the potential of knocking out a ped check immediately if we want to, and maybe lead us to desert a little earlier than we otherwise might go.
Yeah, Estragon was still trying to farm up some bombs, or try to find some bombs prior to having to purchase them to get through Kakariko. And of course, Sick Kid rewards his good routing there in Kakariko with some bombs. So he's going to be able to hold off on purchasing bombs, at least for the moment, and route everything through and then purchase them on his way out. So that's a good check there by Estragon doing things in just the right order so that he doesn't have to make a premature purchase.
Absolutely. Unless he picks up maybe 2 triple bombs, he's probably still going to end up buying something, despite being low on money. The King of Samaria is going to be good enough to do mini Moldorm Cave and some basic light world farming, but until he gets another weapon, you're going to need a little bit more than 2 bombs. But Boots, wow, Boots on Bottle Vendor, nice value there.
Yeah, I mean, Boots, do you take some time to go ahead and check those bonk rocks since it's just kind of a screen over before you go down south? I don't know, maybe, because you're kind of playing the odds. What is your opponent going to do? What is your opponent not going to do? Maybe take a risk and go check that real quick.
Yeah, I think you could do that. It's not too far out of the way. I think you could also follow the standard southern route. You'll be able to get the library item immediately if that's something you want, and you get the quick race game check. Given the number of times they're going to have to start at Sanctuary, at least in the early game, there'll probably be other opportunities to run past the bonk rocks.
No, probably you're more than likely right. I'm just trying to hype something up.
I apologize, Fantasia. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to go through alternate options. We get our first look at what the library item is, a heart piece. That's a little disappointing. And full heart there at the race game, Estragon not picking that up, and Solski also opting to nope out on that heart piece. The full heart, rather. So at this point, looks like we're just following, our standard southern route. We just got to look at our first map, and both Eastern and Tower of Hera are our 5/6 crystals. That'll be really nice if they're able to knock those out early and route in Pyramid Ferry as one of their earlier Dark World checks.
All right, and let's see what we're going to have. What's soggy today? What feels like could be soggy?
I think we'll get a soggy bomb upgrade.
That's playing the odds there a little bit, but you're probably right. Oh, and chat pointing out, Estragon actually did not purchase bombs, and he is routing over here. He's going to go right to, looks like, desert, but he realizes he didn't pick up any bombs. He might have to go right for desert. He's not going to be able to check Agina, at least right at the moment.
Yeah, he was really trying to pick up that crab there.
It's like, no, you do need your glove. Oh, that was a nice triple by Solski. And there's a blue goo in a jar. He's going to save and quit and go purchase bombs. That's an unfortunate mental error there by Estragon.
Mini Moldorm Cave paying off with a sword and a mail upgrade. I am a little surprised that Estragon didn't take a look in the desert. Without a fire source and gloves, you can't complete the back half, but you can knock the front half out and pick up the bottle there on the ledge.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him commit to that. If he, wasted time going over there, just kind of commit to your gamble at that point. Really, oh my. But that bonk rock, having the hammer,
well, that's going to make an Agate Tower requirement much less likely. Solski picking up Bombos and Ice Rod Cave on one of those out-of-the-way locations. But Bonk Rocks is not a location that I would expect either runner to miss next time they head past that area.
Absolutely. With all 3 crystals in the light world, it does make it kind of increasingly likely that they will be able to sequence break with fake flippers past anything they might require the flippers for. You know, if Ice Palace is a crystal and Swamp Palace, for example, is a pendant, and nothing really of value is in Pendant Swamp, we might see them just completely avoid doing that Aga, even though from a sequence perspective it would be required.
That's a good point. They both runners now have knowledge of what's on the Lumberjack ledge, and if you're these guys, you have the Moon Pearl, which means that you can fake flipper, Hobo, which is what Solski's doing. With the boots, you can even fake flipper and get the Zora ledge item by doing a double buffered fake flipper. If the Zora's ledge item is progression and Swamp is a pendant, that's a sequence break that it takes a little while to set up, but it's a lot faster than doing Aga Tower. I'm probably going to find out what that is. Solski's at least heading up into that area, and he's got the money for Zora.
We'll be able to go ahead and do this sequence-breaking waterfall fairy as well.
Are you still computing over there, Vitasia?
No, I have some numbers here as Solski finds bombs and more rupees. So here's the deal. So T-Stew and Solski both have the exact same Tier 1 tiebreaker at 0.667. So their opponents have both been very, very strong. In the last round, though, I mean, this is not including their opponent's win percentage. Solski is facing estragon0, T-Stew faced Walter 4. estragon0 has an opponent's win percentage of 500, even. T-Stew has an opponent's win percentage. His opponent in this round that he lost to was Walter 4, and that opponent win percentage is 0.628. So although Solski right now has kind of a tiebreaker between himself and T-Stew, between 0.59 and 0.76 in that Tier 2 tiebreaker, the strength of Walter 4's schedule might push T-Stew over the edge, but that's going to be super close there at the very end between Solski and T-Stew. That's going to be kind of one of those opening night bubble watch who gets in, who doesn't, because I can't do all that math while I'm doing this work. It's just not going to happen.
Well, that's absolutely reasonable. So while you were crunching some numbers over there, we did get a look at the Zora's Ledge item. Was just an arrow upgrade, so we are not going to need to do any more fake flippering, provided, well, not anything for the Zora domain area anyway. Hopefully Swamp is a pendant and we can just skip Aga Tower.
I mean, that would be nice, unless, of course, something is in Swamp Palace that we absolutely need. Can you imagine? I mean, this could very well end up being a seed to where, we're an hour and a half in and trying to fake flipper our way to victory and realizing that, oh, the flute that we need to get into Misery Mire is somewhere buried in a pendant Swamp Palace, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you do in a situation like that is you play with the expectation that you're not going to have to do it, and then if you do, you commit the time, because like you were saying earlier, runners at this level, a minute and a half, that can be a game changer. 4 to 5 minutes in Aga Tower, absolutely, it's going to be the same thing. I did I saw a match the other day where they only had to complete Aga Tower to get to the Pyramid Fairy, because Hammer was blocked by it. And that was the only thing that they had to do Aga for. So you can see really weird things late game.
So a little bit of route divergence here. Solski is diving into Desert. Estragon in Eastern right now. Estragon finds the Magic Powder. I always like seeing Magic Powder and Hammer early because that just points a giant red beam at that Bat Cave.
Yeah, Estragon's going to be able to do that. Solski is still a hammer short from being able to do that in Logic. So I don't know when Estragon's going to head back to Kakariko next. I think he did the Bonkrox. That's where the hammer was, and I think he did the Sick Hit as well.
So we see Solski going over here to Agina's cave, and I imagine he'll be joining Estragon shortly. We haven't really found a whole lot here yet. I mean, our progression very well could be that magic bat with the hammer powder combo. Also don't have a lamp, so unless, let me see, something's here. Blue boomerang. We also have the big treasure chest. Everything beyond this would be a sequence break.
Yeah, chat's saying they caught both of the items in Desert Palace, no progression. So in order to actually pick up that crystal in Desert, they'll need both a glove and a fire source. No reason to come back to that dungeon until very late in the game when they just need to pick up the crystal.
So I'm a little bit confused. Where is our logical progression at this point in time?
Well, we are a lamp and a cape and a lamp and a sword away from being able to do Aga Tower. We haven't seen either of those. We've seen Ice Rod Cave, we've seen Agina, we've seen all the Zora's Domain area. I'm not sure. There's still, I mean, there's no logical items left in Eastern. Kind of running out of places.
Feels like we've got to have forgotten something at this point in time.
Well, this item that Estragon just got, Full Heart Container, that was a sequence break, but nice to pick up. So that's the third item in Eastern. We don't have to come back here either until it's time to kill Armos. Magic Bat is one thing that chat pointed out.
Yeah, Magic Bat with progression right now is what it feels like. I think that's the only thing left that's technically in logic at this point. Estragon kind of heading right over that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Estragon went back. He still has to do the desert area because he didn't go in the desert and then he didn't have the bomb for Agina on his first trip over. But we've seen that on Solski's side, so this is probably going to be our next progression here.
Lamp. No, I don't know what it's going to be. Probably a glove upgrade if I had to guess.
Yeah, I don't think this could be a lamp because that wouldn't unlock anything and they need at least 2 items.
Yep, there's our lift upgrade, and with that, that is going to be our access to the Dark World. I imagine we'll see Estragon. We haven't seen a save and quit, so I imagine he's going to be using this North Kakariko portal right away.
I actually think that had to be the glove. I can't think of any other single item that would have led to more progression at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you. I'm struggling to say what else could that have been. Might have been the flute, I suppose, to get us up to Death Mountain, but
yeah, it could have been the flute. That would have given us 2 more item locations. Actually, only 1 without the lamp. So we would be back right in the same situation of needing the glove in Spectacle Rock Cave.
Well, then we could get the mirror, and then we'd have access to Tower of Hera at that point in time. So, that would be kind of a ridiculous chain of events that happened at that point in time. We see our first access, and sure enough,
wow,
Swamp Palace is a pendant. So is Misery Mire and Thieves Town. So we might be able to fake flipper our way and just avoid Aga all the way.
It would be so nice to see a logically Aga-required seed that we can skip through the skill and execution game knowledge of the players. But that is always fun. What do you think about Green Pendant Thieves Town, though? I feel that Pendant Thieves Town, you're almost obligated by custom, if nothing else, to take a dip in there, and Green Pendant makes it kind of worth finishing. What are your thoughts?
I tend to like, at least when it's in Thieves Town, at least dipping in the first 4 to see what I'm going to get. The first 4 treasures in Thieves Town are relatively quick to get, first of all. And then if you end up finding 3 of the 4 treasures or so, or even 2 of the 4, kind of making a judgment call based on that. If you get something of value, great, get out. If you only get 1 item, though, then you might commit to go ahead and doing it more. You just kind of have to play it by ear and seeing kind of where the seed is leading you at that point.
I think that seems fair. With the hammer, it is a dungeon that they can full clear and get all the items in. That's one nice thing about Thieves Town, is that the requirements to clear it are so low. You can do it with, Key of Samaria only. Even if you're leaving an item behind without the hammer, you're still getting the crystal or pendant. And we do see Estragon at least checking these first 4. Solski didn't waste any time picking up his hammer and immediately getting his gloves on Magic Bat.
Oh, here's an ice rod, which is nice because we do know that Turtle Rock is required. It is one of those crystals, so you're not going to be hunting for the stereotypically trolly item here. Solski's going to give us a different look. He's going to start off over in the Hype Cave area. So chat, get your guesses in. What kind of Hype Cave are we seeing? Cave of Mysteries.
And another sword in Thieves Town. Oh, absolutely required a dip for that ice rod, if nothing else, but the sword's very nice as well. So Hype Cave time. 300 rupees. That's not too bad.
Heart, rupees, bombs, flute. Okay, but flute maybe not required. Well, Death Mountain.
Pendant Mire is something that may or may not be necessary, and I'm sure they're comfortable sequence breaking up to Death Mountain through the old man. So, given the circumstances, I'm going to say that's like a 2 on the hype scale.
I mean, being able to flute around is nice. If Misery Mire were required, I would probably give it a higher score. But yeah, maybe a 3 out of 10. It gets demoted because Pendant Mire, and now having at least logical, one more step access to a logical mire, you don't necessarily want to have to dip a pendant if you can avoid it. So yeah, 3 of 10, 2 of 10, something in there.
And at least in the short term, there's nothing they can really do on Death Mountain without the mirror or the hook shot to get them some more access. That was a lot of digs.
That was. My gosh, is that max digs? We're close to it?
I think it was 28.
Ew. Meanwhile, Solski is doing some of these way out of the way checks, making some gambles here. You'll see, it's interesting, again, seeing 4 and 2 runners making these out of the way checks, thinking if something is here, that's my gamble, that's my win. Because Estragon may not come over here for a while. A lot of people put Catfish off for whatever reason.
Well, Estragon picked up the Titan's Myth there on Old Stumpy, not continuing to the digging game. Well, he just did the digging game. That was a weird route. It was like Hype Cave, and then digging game, and then Stumpy. And then Fire Rod.
Fire Rod from the fish! That's actually pretty significant, because again, that catfish spot is someone that people avoid quite frequently, and if Estragon doesn't get up there, that's a required item. It's not necessarily required for Ice Palace because we already have Bombos. Required for Skullwoods and required for Turtle Rock.
So I got the sides mixed up. It was Solski did Hype Cave and then went up to Catfish. So he still has to do Stumpy and Digging Game. That'll give him his mitts. It's a little bit odd. Normally you see that you do Hype Cave and then you head left and then kind of stop at Digging Game. Interesting route to head up to Catfish, but that's going to give him the fire rod that he needs to full clear Skullwoods.
Yeah, if he wants to go ahead and dip that, he can, which a lot of runners go ahead and do. And, I would be a little bit nervous about it with only Fighter Sword and Blue Mail and 8 hearts. But Solski is a very solid runner. He's completely capable of doing it. It's just a matter if he wants that stress.
Absolutely. They have the hammer too, and for runners at this level, hammer Mothula is not a big issue. I expect he's just going to go in, get the items as well as the crystal. Estragon, I don't know if he's going to go into Skullwoods. If he does, it'll just be a dip in the front section.
Yeah, it looks like he's heading that way, so he's not going to be able to clear it out. It is worth noting, though, that because he has the Titansmiths, once he's done here, he can do this north route check. He might also be able to do the Jeremiah loop here as well. Both options would be beneficial to him at this point in time, and checks that Solski has not yet made.
Yeah, Estragon picked up the Ice Rod in Thieves Town. That's one of those items that it varies a lot on whether you want it. If it's a Crystal Turtle Rock, getting the Ice Rod out of the way, absolutely wonderful. If it's Pendant Turtle Rock, you do not want to see the Ice Rod show up outside of Ganon's Tower.
A little curious, Solski picked up a key, but he's still opting to go ahead and do this room.
Maybe wants to potentially save having to get a key off the Gibdo right before Mothula. That'll give him a little bit more health and magic.
Maybe. I mean, just a little bit. I mean, it might even be something as simple as muscle memory. You just don't even think about it.
But very nice bomb jump, the bufferless one, even though he does have the boots. And that's our first item. So one item left in Skullwoods. And there's our second item.
Yep, there's the lamps. So Estragon isn't going to necessarily need to... he's not going to be out any items not being able to get into that second half, at least right now. So that's good news for Estragon. There's still plenty of checks that both these runners can make that neither runner is going to lose too much time with the checks they've made up to this point in time. It's just a matter of, Solski getting those Titansmiths, Estragon getting that Fire Rod.
Well, I think that Solski is very likely to do the southern route, and coming out of here to Digging Game and Stumpy, we'll be picking up those mitts. Catfish is a little bit more out of the way though, so Fire Rod might be put off a while. Not going to be a big deal for Estragon. He has Bombos, so he can use that to clear Ice Palace if he needs it, and the lamp gives him a fire source. So Fire Rod really won't be needed until he wants to actually clear Skullwoods, and that could be his last crystal.
I also dare not say it because I don't want to jinx myself. But I've been working on another parody song that is still in play. Like it requires a very specific set of circumstances for it to be relevant, and it's in play still, so I'm getting a little bit excited.
Okay. Well, I forgot Estragon will also need the Fire Rod for Turtle Rock, so that's one other location. But what's the niche scenarios for this new song, if you're interested in sharing?
I will say it will require bow mode. We'll put it that way. Like we're looking for the bow to be our last item, and then I will be able to go there.
All right. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Solski having absolutely no trouble with that Mothula fight.
That was very well done. Meanwhile, Estragon is putting those mitts to work right now, doing these hammer pegs and turning in. Well, I mean, Jeremiah is going to have to require a little bit of a trip here. Does not have the mirror yet.
Yeah, he's done. He's done Stumpy. I'm still mixed up on which one of them did the Digging Game, but I guess he did, so he's immediately saving and quitting.
And we do see red mail up on Bumper Cave. I think Estragon checked that either. I don't anticipate either runners necessarily needing that at this point in time. if you were a green male, maybe, because the difference between green and blue is great. The difference between blue and red is you don't necessarily need it at that point.
Absolutely. We did see Estragon check that location, so he has the knowledge of what's up there. We need the cape in order to get it, but I completely agree with you. Neither runner is going to commit the time to pick that up, even if they need to do a graveyard ledge or something. By the time they have the cape, they're fine with blue mail, I bet.
Estragon finding the best cane from Jeremiah, cane of Berna. And Estragon is going to dip over here into the Mire area. It is Bombos, so we can get into Misery Mire right now. That's not good news. You don't necessarily want to have to be able to dip Mire.
Yeah, with the boots, we are able to get across that first gap in Mire, and with the cane, we're able to full clear it. It's not a incredibly difficult fight, but and he has the lamp for the dark rooms, so it looks like we're seeing him head in.
It's interesting, dipping a pendant Mire. I mean, first of all, this isn't necessarily fun. There's only 2 items necessarily in here, and if you do have to go all the way to Vitreous, you're doing Cane of Berna, Master Sword dash strats, or bomb strats maybe, depending on what else. Now he opens and saves and quits.
I think he was just teasing us.
This is why... Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
With only 2 items in that dungeon, I completely agree with, skipping it. It's a lot of work for just 2 items.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the justification in your head. You're like, the flute has to lead to something. I got it too early. The flute locks something. But that's kind of a gambler's fallacy at that point in time. I mean, it was kind of a little bit buried there in the sequence, so it may lead to nothing. Meanwhile, Solski is going to go ahead and looks like he's diving deeper into Pendant Thieves Town. Now, not only is it just the normal 4 items here, it is also the green pendant, and I don't know if he's ever gone over to the eastern. He's going to eventually have to go back there anyway, so 5 items total from completing this dungeon. I kind of like this. I would rather do a full clear of Thieves Town than dip into Pendant Mire.
Absolutely. There's still at least one item in here. I know we got the Master Sword and the Ice Rod. I don't remember if there's one other item, but either way, though, it is not a long dungeon to complete. And for Estragon, we know that there's no items that are of any value here in Desert, but with the gloves now and a fire source, no reason for him not just to finish it out.
Still no key. I think that does mean logically for Thieves Town that key is going to be in that big treasure chest, which does mean, I mean, we got the hammer relatively early, but by logic, the hammer is required to get through all of Thieves Town just because of how the key logic ends up working in this particular dungeon.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing about the logic that I didn't learn just until yesterday or the day before. We were trying to figure out if the red Thieves Town crystal could potentially block hammer, and we learned that it could not.
Yeah, that key logic, effectively the keys, everything, the logic in this game effectively assumes that you use your keys in the dumbest way possible. So the logic would effectively require for you to take the key from the spike room with the switches, turn around, use it where you're not supposed to use it, so that you would have to use the key or get the key to get through blind. So it's silly. There's no two ways about it. No one should ever route that way, but it does presume that you're kind of a dum-dum and use your keys that way.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking about where they can go next after this. If they want to continue on dungeons that they can full clear, I think Ice Palace makes sense. You know, it's full clearable and it's a crystal. Despite, I don't even think you could call it a sequence break, because you know where the flippers are, and the flippers are in sequence. You're just choosing not to get them.
Yeah, I would be a little bit nervous because for Ice Palace, simply because of some weird logic in there requiring, you know, whether or not the hook shot is required in there. Now you can certainly get past it, but then you're sequence breaking both the flippers and the hook shot, and you know, more than 2 sequence breaks, I start getting a little bit nervous there myself. We do have King's Tomb as an overworld location that neither runner has checked up to this point in time, that now is also in logic.
That's true. I guess what I was trying to say is, if you know where the flippers are and you know that you can get them right now, I mean, they could do AGA. They have the requirements, the lamp and the sword, so they could do AGA and get the flippers. So choosing not to get them isn't really a sequence break. It's
okay. That's fair.
It's an execution break, but it's not a logical break.
Solski remembering, oh yeah, I don't have the flippers.
Solski having the fire rod, as soon as he gets a way to actually get up to Turtle Rock, that's probably a great spot for him to go. Still needs the mirror or the hook shot.
I don't know. Turtle Rock and Great Place to Go are 2 places that I would never put in the same sentence together, but you're right.
Yeah, it depends on how you get up there. If you get the mirror, then I'd say absolutely go to Turtle Rock, because you're not going to risk leaving Mimic Cave behind. If it's the hook shot, you're still going to head up there because you're going to want to check Dark Death Mountain and Light East Death Mountain, and there's like 20 items up there. But we got to, you know, the hook shot is really the mystery item, I think, at this point.
Yeah, there's dozens of places that thing could be. I mean, it could very well be in Pendant Swamp, which would be horrible. This is also a situation where the hookshot could very well be buried in his tower, depending on how the key logic ends up folding out here in Ice Palace, which would also be horrible.
Yeah, that's the thing with Ice Palace, is you kind of have to wait to see where all the keys were before you could tell if it was hookshot locked or not. But we find the bow in our King's Tomb. Check. That is nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely nice for Estragon, and that's another one of those overworld locations. A little sad. Song's dead. It's okay though.
And Estragon also doing his first back of escape check. Forgot that he did not have the bomb initially. That's a pretty long time to put that off.
That's actually a really long time to put that off. I don't think anything was actually here, so I mean, it's nice that he has everything to check, and now he can go ahead and do the Pod Eastern plays relatively quickly. No mirror, but still not too terribly difficult to do both of those back to back.
Yeah, he's already checked all of the items in Eastern, so that isn't necessarily, you know, a rush to just get the crystal, but absolutely clearing Pod, that makes the most sense now. You can full clear it, yet another crystal. Really good chance for progression, and that does seem to be where he's headed. Yeah, with that bow, I would absolutely put a Pod play over an Ice Palace play.
All right, so this will be our first dip into pod. We'll find out pretty quickly if it ends up being bow locked. If it is, I mean, then estragon made a great play delaying this. It's entirely possible that Solski also heads over here before doing that particular check in King's Tomb. It's a one-off location, especially because you don't have the mirror for Graveyard Ledge, which a lot of people try to route those two in together.
Well, fortunately, you can get the King's Tomb from the Light World, now that they both have the mitts. Solski, a very nice bomb jump in the Jelly Room there. That's one of the trickier ones to pull off consistently, but he got it his first try. And we would have had a bow-locked pod because the mushroom was our first chest.
Fetch quests. That sounds appetizing right at the moment.
I'm sorry. I was going to say we got our mirror, so now we have our Death Mountain access, and we can do our Turtle Rock play.
Yeah, and here's kind of the interesting thing is that mirror also opens up the Graveyard Ledge. So I really sincerely hope that Solski ends up checking the Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb because that's where the bow is. But I can absolutely see him just going in and full clearing both Death Mountain and Dark Death Mountain. He does not have the hook shot yet. So, I mean, those are a lot of checks. He could even be dipping and full clearing Turtle Rock at this point in time.
Well, that's not really going to hurt him too much. The bow only blocks Palace of Darkness and Eastern, so he can still get a lot of other stuff done. And as long as he doesn't dip potted without the bow, he's not really losing any time. And you're right, he'll probably do the King's Tomb check sooner rather than later, just because it is a quick check, especially if he ends up starting from Sanctuary.
Well, that's the most important item in the game. Bug net.
Yeah, I actually, in all seriousness, do like the bug net. If you have the powder, it's always nice to have a safety fairy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people mock it quite a bit, and it's some people's favorite item because you can use swag strats on Aghanim, and then speedrunners laugh at everyone saying, why would you do that? Take yourself seriously, come on. But no, it's a nice item, especially for those safety strats. The powder is nicer, I think, objectively, because you can use the fairies immediately if you need to, but being able to capture those fairies on the go is certainly helpful.
Oh, absolutely. If I had to pick between net and powder, I would go powder every time. But it isn't bad to have the net in addition to the powder. Solski choosing to go with Bombos for Cold Stairs, give him a lot more magic left for those Fire Rod shots.
Yeah, he got one spin off to try to knock everything in, but then the ice cubes started falling down, and so he's trying to make best efficient use of his magic as possible. He's actually having a very nice Cold Stair fight for Master Sword.
Yeah, the Puffs definitely got away from a little bit there, but his execution makes it look easy.
Estragon looks like he's trying to set up a death warp, trying to take the easy way out. He does not have that mirror, so will have to kill himself in order to get back to the front. It is the fastest way, but not the cleanest way, I would say.
I'm putting 200 rupees on a Death Mountain play, and I'm wrong.
Well, with that mirror, he's going to be able to also check Checkerboard Cave, which is, again, another kind of out-of-the-way location that Estragon has not been able to check. So he's maximizing his options on that mirror spot, which I kind of like. I like leveraging something that you know that you kind of got in an out-of-the-way location. It really maximizes the gambles that you made.
And he might as well finish up Desert while he's over here. He has the fire source now and the gloves.
Absolutely. Estragon finding Tempered Sword somewhere in Palace Darkness looks like. And yeah, there's that check over in Desert. So Solski will be going ahead and clearing Desert. Good call there.
Well, he already had the big key from the front half. He was just fire source and glove lock from the back. So no better time to do it. And Lammo is a very easy boss with the fire rod or even the ice rod.
Question from chat, because it's one of the things that chat seems to always be concerned about. What's the status of Pedestal? And the status of Pedestal is if it's the medallion to open Turtle Rock, and that's about it. So Pedestal is really kind of on life support right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't have the flippers. We know where that is. We know where the bow is. It can't be the hook shot because Swamp Palace is a pendant. So yeah, Turtle Rock Medallion is essentially it, unless you're gonna call things like Shovel, which would essentially be the same thing, just leads to one item.
Solski with the very clean one cycle there on Lanmo, so he gets his next crystal and is on his way. Gotta say, he's making better progress on these crystals while Estragon is going through some of these longer dungeons at this point. But I mean, it's still anyone's game at this point in time. There's been some kind of interesting checks here back and forth.
Absolutely. I think that the advantage Solski has was that catfish check, which is one of the most out-of-the-way locations. Estragon's eventually going to need the fire rod, but he might ultimately, gamble that it's going to be in Turtle Rock and be led astray. I think it's a little bit more likely that Solski is going to pick up the bow in part of his normal routing before he has to get to the point where he's explicitly searching for it.
I tend to think that's right, which is why we kind of emphasized exactly how big that fire rod on the catfish is. That was an out-of-the-way location. And there's the hook shot. Old man had it the whole time.
That's got to be a little frustrating because the old man is one of the easiest rooms to sequence break, and with how long they've had the lamp, it would not have even been a sequence break. So they could have done all of Death Mountain a good 20-30 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, absolutely. Solski will have the ability to do all these checks. We'll all be able to do Tower of Hera here directly, which is one of the important 5/6 crystals. Again, we are effectively, as soon as we know what medallion is on Turtle Rock, we're going to be in go mode, aren't we?
No mode, at least.
I mean, we'll still need to know what medallion is on Turtle Rock itself, so that's worth knowing. Estragon making kind of an interesting play immediately here, going right up Turtle Rock, even though he does not have the mirror or the hook shot, will be rewarded with the hook shot.
Yeah, the mirror is going to make the Death Mountain routing a little bit more efficient, but Estragon is still going to be able to get every item up here except what's on top of Spectacle Rock, and who cares about that? So Estragon was actually making the little bit of a gutsier play here. Coming up here without the mirror meant that the old man and the inside of Spectacle Rock was all that he could access. I think that he was probably doing it more for the save continue point, having the flute, than the actual items, and probably is pleasantly surprised to have found the hookshot there.
He actually might even be thinking that he has a little bit of a, because of that gamble, that he has a little bit of an edge. He has not yet found that mirror, so you know, at this point he doesn't know where it is. He might think it's buried somewhere at this point. So knowing that he got up here, even though it is in logic, going ahead and doing that, he might feel he has a bit of an edge, even though Solski will be able to make these checks very quickly soon.
Yeah, I think I said Solski, but I meant Estragon.
It's okay, I know what you meant. And chat knows what you meant too.
Chat knows what I meant, yeah.
That's all that matters. As long as chat knows what we meant, we don't have to actually say the words. And there's both Quake and a Shovel. Shovel is interesting because it could lead to something else. It could lead him astray further. But Quake, that's another mystery there in terms of what could possibly be the medallion on Turtle Rock.
Solski not happy finding a key on Moldorm. Not at all. Gonna gamble on the basement.
It's a one-item location. I think you got to do it. I think you have to. Estragon is going to be going over here and doing his Tower of Hera here directly.
Yeah, you know, my thoughts on the basement definitely vary. I think for a lot of people it comes down to, you know, do I think my opponent's likely to do the basement, and I need to invest the time in it just to stay even. It is a lot of time for a single item, especially compared to what Solski still has available on East Death Mountain. You know, 16 or so items in the Light and Dark world.
Solski gave us a little bit of a pot dance there. He was having some fun in the tower. You got to have a little bit of fun, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is all about fun. So,
wah, wah.
Yeah, a bottle, it could be worse, though. It could be like a green rupee. Yeah, at least you can put stuff in a bottle.
Yeah, I mean, it's not horrible. And hey, I've seen a lot of people use bees very effectively in that Ganon's Tower climb. So there's that. Oh, silvers. Silvers
on the ledge?
Floating island, yeah.
Well, Solski is gonna be able to pick those up immediately. Estragon will at least know where they are, and they'll be easy enough to pick up on his way to GT at the very latest, you know, if he wants them. That's always an interesting choice. You know, if you're heading to Ganon's Tower, you know where the silvers are. Do you pick them up? It's not that far out of the way, but it's a minute to pick them up. I think probably most people would.
Considering how much time you could possibly save on Ganon, you absolutely do it. I mean, you are going to see Solski go ahead and do it. Estragon, though, because he does not have the mirror, that'll be an interesting choice that he'll have to make.
Well, I don't think Estragon is going to make a separate trip up here to pick them up, but if he still doesn't have them on his way to Ganon's Tower, then I think he will stop in and pick them up that time. Solski
did not.
I don't know what. I don't know what Solski just did.
He didn't pick up the silvers. He went up there and then didn't mirror over.
I wonder if they have any like side deals going, like they won't pick up silvers or something like that.
I mean, I know Christos and Ben did that in the fall tourney last year, but when you're 4-2, nah, you don't make any gentlemen's agreements like that.
Well, he has to climb back up here for the dark mode, dark world. So, you know, maybe we'll see. We did at least find out the Turtle Rock medallion was Quake, though, so Estragon has both the medallions that are needed.
Alright, so let's see what we have. Estragon is going to be doing his basement check here. He's going to be disappointed in his being a bottle. And we're at exactly 1 hour right now. It's kind of 4 crystals to 3, but man, we've had some interesting route divergence here. Estragon has completed Palace of Darkness. Solski has completed Ice Palace. He's also completed Thieves Town, which is a green pendant. So he could theoretically, once he's ready to go over to the Eastern Pod Dip, he'll be able to route those a little bit more efficiently than Estragon has.
Well, it's really going to come down to how much time they waste looking for that last item. We basically know where everything is now. The fire rod is needed for Estragon, and the bow is needed for Solski. So we know that at this point, Swamp Palace is going to be absolutely skipped. That's optional. The remaining pendants, Mr. Myers is going to be skipped. The risks are that Estragon will, go into Turtle Rock and it won't be immediately fire locked, or Solski will go into Pod looking for the bow, and sequence break the bow lock section with a potion or something like that. Solski's still not getting those silver arrows. I really hope he was just kind of trolling us there.
I mean, if he's trolling us, he's spending time to troll us, which Solski, man.
Well, maybe Solski looked at your spreadsheets there, Vitasia, and knows his odds of getting in even if he loses.
I hope he didn't. Man, the updates then that aren't on the spreadsheets that I published on my last video yesterday are gonna make it seem a little bit weird. So he is going to go ahead and do Turtle Rock without the bow. See, and this is the exact situation for Solski that my song was written for. I'm super sad right now.
I think that I actually heard this one when you were last streaming your race. I think you demoed it.
Oh yeah. The Bob Seger parody, yeah.
I really do like this Turtle Rock play. He doesn't need the bow for anything in here, so he'll be able to full clear it, get a crystal. I think a lot of people who try to save Turtle Rock for last kind of hinder their own ability to progress. For Solski, from his point of view, the bow can be in here, and you don't really save any time go moding Turtle Rock. You can skip Mimic Cave, and you can skip the vanilla Big Key chest, and maybe 3 chests on Laser Bridge. Like, there really isn't much you can skip.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Estragon is going over here. He's going to avoid the dip into Turtle Rock at this point in time. We'll be checking Spike Cave, though, which again, an interesting check.
Yeah, without the Fire Rod, Turtle Rock's a little bit less tempting. You might want to check to see if your Fire Rod locked at least, because it can be in the first chest, or actually it can be in several chests in Turtle Rock. But Estragon does have a lot of other options available still.
Absolutely, and Estragon rewarded with the clearly superior boomerang. No, it's not even remotely superior. I'm sorry, guys.
Only if you're going for who has the most lag time at the end.
You mean that's not our high score? I've been doing this all wrong.
And that's why we're both out of the tournament.
Estragon turning in the mushroom here.
I think this is our first mushroom check. A little bit unfortunate that he didn't route it in with catfish, because that would have led him to the fire rod.
A little bit, but he's routing it in with his potion restocks. Says, hey, there's a big 20 if you really want it. And he's going, no, I'm just here for the potions. Keep the tip.
So Esther, I was gonna say he has the ability to clear Eastern now. That would give him his second 5/6 crystal. So that would also make a Pyramid Fairy check likely to give him a reason to route in catfish.
Solski is also going to be doing. I mean, he's doing his. At this point, we know he's not going to find anything necessarily useful. Although, if he found the other sword, I think it'd be the best case scenario for him at this point.
Yes,
Estragon is doing these fake flipper checks now.
That was our last medallion.
OC28. No, we know where flips are. We're not worried about flippers at this point in time. They are, if you know the fake flippers tricks, completely optional.
Yeah, I would absolutely expect both of our runners to check every other location available before they committed to an Aga to flippers to swamp check.
Yeah, we're fortunate at this point in time. We know what we got to do. Estragon is going to be going up here, doing his sequence breaking up here, purchasing his scam from Zora. Worth noting that even though, I mean, Estragon has both the invincibility items, Solski has neither of those. This is technically a sequence break here for Solski, even though most runners are really capable of doing this laser bridge right now.
Yeah, those were some nice laser skips there. And Solski is going to be able to get the full magic refill here. Not even bothering to powder any of those anti-fairies, though. So is either confident that he's going to do this Master Sword, but most likely I expect to see Hammer Trinex.
Yeah, I tend to think so, too. And it looks like Estragon's going to be making another climb up Death Mountain at this point in time. Looks like he might even be doing a Turtle Rock shit. Well, I don't know. Where's he going?
This is a Spike Cave check, because that's all he can do on this side.
I thought he just did Spike Cave, I thought.
Then I don't know what this is. I guess he missed Paradox Cave. Or Spectacle Rock Cave.
Oh, that's true.
So Ice Head not cooperating with Solski, messing up the floor a bit there. I can just burn him down. More than enough magic.
Yeah, why not? Why not do it? Estragon now going over to Eastern Palace. Looks like this will be pretty quick for him.
This is really good for Estragon. This tells me that I think he's planning on doing a Pyramid Fairy check next. That's why he's picking up this crystal. There's no other reason for him to prioritize, this crystal at the moment. And Pyramid Fairy will probably make him route in Catfish as well.
Meanwhile, Solski does defeat Trinex, and he will get that crystal. So he's only got the pod Eastern. He's still looking for that bow. I really hope he checks over that Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb. It's a quick check right over there. He also bypassed Silvers, which are right over here. So, Solski.
Absolutely. This is where the race can really go off the rails. We know Solski has a very, has essentially a 20-second check to grab his bow, but it could be a long time before he picks it up.
Oh, is he going to do a pedestal check right now?
I do believe he is. With both Pod and Eastern being crystals, there's no reason that the bow could not have been here. And this does make a lot of sense before you start checking a whole bunch of overworld spots. But bomb upgrade is all we're going to get today on the pedestal.
Yep, so he's getting ready to flute away. And, we know where it is. And I wish he wouldn't flute away. Meanwhile, Estragon is already almost through Eastern.
Well, this could be good. He's going back into Dark Kakariko, so if this is a Graveyard Ledge check, that's going to include King's Tomb. If this is a Blacksmith's Chain, then that's going to send him down south.
And the Blacksmith's Chain is probably the more dense location. Where's he going?
There we go. He's going up.
That's good.
Yep, he'll get his bow here. So I think Estragon is, and if I'm right about his Pyramid Fairy play, leading the Catfish, then he'll be in an excellent position as well.
Yeah, he'll have Skullwoods, Ice Palace, and Turtle Rock to complete. Solski is just going to have Eastern Palace and Pod to complete, so he's going to be able to skip a little bit. Go-moding Eastern Palace and Pod, not great. Estragon, in the meanwhile, will be able to do a go-moded Ice Palace, but 3 of the later dungeons versus 2 of the earlier dungeons, I've got to give the edge to Solski here.
Well, Skullwoods is a very fast dungeon, and Go Mode Ice is only about 3 minutes. Turtle Rock will leave him up on the mountain and able to go directly into Ganon's Tower, so it's going to be close. It does look like he is making the Pyramid Fairy play. It all comes down to whether he continues on the Catfish. But Solski is in Go Mode now, having picked up that bow, a little frustrated, but in a great position to do the Pod Eastern combo.
Absolutely, and he'll be able to do it much more efficiently. You save quite a bit of time being able to combo it. Estragon kind of separated the 2 out, but Solski isn't even going to check. He even knows where the silvers are, so he's not even going to turn in the green pendant at this point in time. And all things said, you're at an hour 12-minute in Go mode. And even if you feel like you've maybe misplayed a little bit, you might feel a little bit good about yourself at this point.
I definitely think you feel comfortable having 5 of your crystals done at this point, and knowing that you can Go mode Pod and Eastern essentially. Pod Go mode really depends on where the big key is, but Solski, if he doesn't feel ahead, he probably doesn't at least feel behind. He probably feels even. Estragon continuing on to somewhere. Hopefully it's Catfish.
Yeah, Solski's going to be able to route Palace Darkness just a little bit easier than Estragon did. Remember, Estragon came in here without the mirror, so he had a little bit longer of a time here.
Yeah, so doing Eastern to unlock the Pyramid Fairy was the correct call. and this is leading him exactly where he needs to go. So it's going to be go mode for Estragon only a few minutes after, and I think it's too close to even call at this point because the different dungeons that they have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, 2 dungeons versus 3, things that you can go mode, things that you can't. Yeah, too close. This is going to come down. They're both going to be in Ganon's Tower at roughly the same time. They might even only be a few rooms apart. Estragon finds his fire rod, is happy.
So I forget where the pod big key was. If it's really deep in the dungeon, that's going to make this dungeon take a little bit more time. Ideally, you would find the big key and a small key on the right side, and then you would just go directly to Helmasaur. That's essentially the go mode, God pod.
Well, I mean, it would be in terms of routing, but, you know, we both kind of want Solski to be able to pick up this Tempered Sword. I don't want him to go right now, and he's going to. He got a very good one.
He got his key. So this will leave him with a sword disadvantage. I think in this case, he absolutely will want to pick up the silvers now.
Absolutely. And I think I saw some frustration slashes there when he switched to his bow. It's like, I thought I picked up silvers. Oh. Now, I mean, the advantage that Estragon has over that sword could be completely negated if we end up finding another sword somewhere in the tower, in Ganon's Tower. But you gotta think, we've not touched Misery Mire, we've not touched Swamp Palace. There's a lot of items that are there on the table. Plus, if we have an early Ganon's Tower big key, that would play to Estragon's advantage at this point in time with the weapon loadouts.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to predict that Solski ends up doing Master Sword with silvers. I don't know why he didn't pick them up initially, but he knows where they are at least, so hopefully he will remember that he doesn't have them. I think those frustration slashes were because he hit the switch twice.
All right, so Estragon and Solski are going to be fighting different bosses at just about the same time here. Oh, Estragon still doesn't have the mirror, which, I mean, it's technically not required.
Yeah, Mirror and Ice Palace. I forget how deep in the dungeon it was. I think it was right side, so Estragon's probably going to skip that and not be any worse off for it. The only time that he would use the mirror still left in the game would be to mirror out of Ganon's Tower once he finds the big key. That might be a death warp, it might be a walkout. That can definitely be annoying to have to do. But not worth it. You do what you have to do there.
Man, this is so close between these two. So Estragon is getting ready to go mode Ice Palace. Solski is getting ready to do, I mean, this is his first dip into Eastern. Oh, wait, he's not. He's cleared it. So he's just going to go.
Yeah, the go mode, finishing Eastern and go moding Ice are probably pretty close together in time.
Estragon having some trouble setting up that fake flipper, though.
Yeah, that's a little weird to see. But Solski, Solski's going to be essentially an entire Turtle Rock ahead, so that is a pretty decent lead, at least 5 minutes.
And Fajita Knight, yes, only 3 swords have been seen at this point in time. So, I mean, there could be another one somewhere in Ganon's Tower. Technically, yes. However, there's no guarantee of that. It's possible, but keep in mind that we haven't touched Swamp Palace, we haven't touched Misery Mire. So there's, I don't know, at this point I would put it at about a 50-50. There's another sword in Ganon's tower.
There might be, but depending on the big key location, you know, if it's an early big key, most of those chests are going to go unchecked.
Solski setting up the quick kill on these knights, and he's done it. That is Crystal 7, ladies and gentlemen.
Very nice.
And with that 7th crystal, it is time for everyone's favorite game. It is the Ganon's Tower Big Key game. If you are a subscriber to any of the Speed Gaming network of channels or have contributed at least 250 bits across the channels, you will be registered for our leaderboards. 1 through 22, get your guesses in chat. Where will the Ganon's Tower Big Key be? Tiru, sir, my good friend. What's your guess?
Well, today I'm going to go for 1, and that's nothing against Solski. It's just the fact that he has a pretty nice lead at the moment, so I want Estragon's sword advantage to help out a little bit, try to make it a little bit closer.
That's fair. I need to pick a new number. The last time I chose 18, I won, so I need to find something else. So, random number generator. We're going 6. And I imagine Solski's going to stop and pick those silvers up. He might be kicking himself a little bit, but I think he got to. You save too much time with silvers, especially with Master Sword.
Yeah, you save 20 sword spins in phase 4 by having silvers instead of at least 20. But yeah, he's going in there, so good for him. We will have to ask him why he skipped them in the first place, though.
That might be one of those, like, oh, I thought I picked him up. I did the whole sequence.
So interestingly, we see Estragon still checking some chests that are on the way. He should know where the silvers are as well. So, but he knows he can't get them. So I guess what he's looking for at this point is the mirror.
Yeah, he wants those silvers. He thinks at this point in time that the silvers are going to help him, and he would be absolutely right. They would help him at this point in time. But he's getting ready to do his final well, no, he's still got Turtle Rock as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a whole Turtle Rock behind, and unfortunately for him, he's been checking the Ice Palace chests that are in the way, but the mirror is in the Ice Palace chest that's not in the way. It's on right side. So when Ganon tells him where the silvers are, he might be a little frustrated at how close he was.
He doesn't even know where the silvers are. He just doesn't know where the mirror are.
I kind of skipped a step there. Ganon's not going to tell him where the mirror was.
No, I mean, that'd be nice, Ganon. Solski finds 2 not keys in the first 2 treasure chests, so he's going to have to dip a little bit further and a guaranteed left side check at minimum.
I think Ganon should tell you where the silvers are, and then also any progression items that you didn't get that were needed to get the silvers.
And that might make the Ganon fight a little bit annoying. It's like, by the way, you needed to do this and this, and you needed to do That's true. Logically, you needed to do Aghanim in order to get the silvers.
So we're kind of coming up on what, number 8 is this, Fantasia?
Yep, this is number 8. This is the Fire Bar room. My check is dead, but Solski's got to be careful. I think he's got a red potion and a blue potion, so I think he'll be all right. And that's why you use the blue boomerang. It's a little bit slower, so you can do some interesting tech with it. Solski just showing off those moves.
I do like those boomerang strats. I use them myself. They're fun to do and they're fun to watch.
Number 9, no good. He's not happy. He's getting rid of bombs.
Let's get some hype for the rando room.
10 through 13. He's trying to ditch bombs and he gets bombs. Sagan's Rufus has an interesting question. What makes a seed AGA required? If you're relatively new to Randomizer, you know, we've neglected to mention a few things as we go through here. We assumed a certain level of knowledge. That's our bad. What would make Aghanim required is if something is locked behind Aghanim or our access to the Dark World is locked behind Aghanim. So in this case, the item on the Lumberjack ledge was absolutely, it was the flippers. Now, in order to get the Lumberjack item, you need to logically be able to beat Aghanim and then bonk the tree. Because Ice Palace logically requires the flippers to get to it, the entire seed logically requires you to have to beat Aghanim. However, both these runners are very adept at knowing fake flippers, so we kind of skipped that part.
There's the big key locked behind Ice Armos.
Yep, that was treasure chest number 15. And no sword for Solski. So even though it was kind of a late one, Solski is not going to be able to get any swords as he's going through here.
So I mentioned this in chat, but just to elaborate here on the AGA answer, the Lumberjack ledge item, as Vitasia mentioned, in this case it was the flippers. That's one scenario that you'll need to defeat AGA. If that's an item that you can't sequence break past, like our runners did this time, the most common requirement to kill AGA is if that's your access to the Dark World. If you don't have the hammer, the moon pearl, and mitts, or 2-mit upgrades in the moon pearl, you don't have any other way to get into the Dark World. But the last option is if the hammer is locked behind the Pyramid Fairy, then you will need to defeat AGA in order to have a path to get the big bomb up to the Pyramid Fairy.
Well, there's also the lock for the east part of Dark World as well. If both the flippers and the hammer are locked somewhere behind the on the eastern part of the Dark World, then you could also theoretically require AGA to get to that as well. So lots of scenarios involved in order to get there.
Another good example, yes.
So long story short, yes, in this particular seat, AGA was required, but we so pro, we broke the game. All right, so Solski's making good time up this climb. Estragon is going through and having a little bit of trouble here in Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock is just kind of one of those slogs. It's not an easy dungeon to get through quickly. And we'll see, is Solski, no, Solski's not going to be checking any, oh, he is going to check, okay. I thought he was going to be, no, pull the brassy move and not check any treasure chest there for a second. Solski is on Moldorm 2 and switches to the hammer because it is more efficient in killing him. A little bit upset that he's like, do I hover? No, no. No swords for Solski.
Yeah, I don't know if Solski is a typical hover. I don't even know how to say that. But the current record for this tournament, I believe, was achieved by skipping hookshot and doing that hover.
Yeah, it was super fast. I think I was on one of those races. I mean, it was, 1:12 or something ridiculous. Nice triple by Solski, although that does kind of desync Ag at this point. 3-2, and he's only got one more hit left on Aga.
That's a super clean Aga fight.
Yeah, that's the ideal that you want right there. So Solski at 130 is on his way to Mr. Blue Bacon.
Estragon having a much easier Trinex fight with the Tempered Sword instead of Master. Will be heading to Ganon's Tower right after this kill. Unable to pick up those silvers, and that's torturous because he knows where they are.
Yeah, I don't think Trinex even dropped an item, so he's kind of done at this point in time. He's got to commit himself fully to it.
So Solski is going to need 12 spins instead of 12 slashes, or with the tempered, or 6 with the butter. So this is a little bit more execution focused, phase 1 and 2. 2 being fairly difficult, dodging those fire bats and getting 12 spins in. Solski is not going to have too much of an issue, I bet. Nice positioning up here. If this cycles phase 2, there we go. This is literally
ideal for Solski right now.
That is the best spot to be in. Maybe with the cape you could one cycle that with the Master Sword. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe with the cape, but I mean he's doing a pretty decent job, and I think he's done now, so he's getting set up to do phase 3, which is absolutely great.
Yeah, phase 3 is still a little bit tough. Getting the sword spins rather than the slashes, you need to allocate a little bit of extra time, and he can get those fire bat rings off. There's one more to go, and there he goes.
And there it is. So Estragon now in Ganon's Tower as well. Did you find the arrows on Death Mountain? Yes.
I would have found them twice.
Yeah, found them, left them, came back.
And a little bit more dangerous here because you still need to do spins in order to get him into his frozen state. And just, you have to get really close, but gets a double there. Very nice. He's done.
He's good. GG, Solski.
So Solski picking up the guaranteed progression into the brackets and throwing Vitage's spreadsheets completely out of whack.
I mean, I'm okay with spreadsheets. When you do bracketology, you just presume that everything you do is going to be wrong eventually. You just do it. GG. He had a very clean race. Does he have time for another one? I don't actually think we do.
Maybe he'll do one on his own stream just for fun. Hour 33 minutes. That is a really, really nice time for a seed.
I mean, for an AGA required seed, that we completely skipped AGA and said, no, you.
I think almost everybody would have skipped AGA. That is the dream AGA skip.
Yeah, flippers, but nothing in Swamp Palace that we know of. Didn't even have to dip our pinky toe into the water there. So Solski moving on to 5 and 2, guaranteed spot in the brackets. Estragon, unfortunately, will be falling to 4 and 3, and his win percentage is sitting at, or his opponent win percentage is about 500. So he's not even in the top half, really, of the tiebreakers at this point in time. And we welcome Solski, our winner. GG, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations, Solski.
Thank you.
Was that a beer that you were just cracking open?
Very, yes.
Well-deserved refreshment.
Every post game.
So, guaranteed progression into the brackets. That has got to feel good.
It does. I've been doing actually some number crunching the last couple of days just to kind of see what my chances were if I did take the L today. And they're really good that I would advance through the tiebreak, but I just didn't want to go through that, so...
We actually talked about the number crunch here, and it would have been super close. I think the first of the 2 spots that are open, the first one has pretty well already been claimed, maybe. The second one is kind of a toss-up between you, would have been a toss-up between you and another runner.
Yeah.
But you're good. You're in. You don't have to worry about that anymore.
I'm in, so... you guys love that silver blunder?
Yeah, we were wondering what happened. Did you just forget that they were there?
Were you trolling us there?
I was thinking of the route as I was going along, because I'm like, okay, so where can Quake be? Where's Bo? And I'm like, usually for me, historically, the medallion, if I'm missing it, is in the area. So I'm like, I still got lots of stuff to do in the mountain. And it felt so weird, because I dropped off the cliff, and I was like, that's odd. I was like, guess I got silvers, and then marked it on my tracker. And I didn't realize I didn't have it until pod, when I finally equipped the bow, and I was like, wait a sec.
Oh, okay. So those were silver rage slashes in pod.
Yeah, so that's why my mode is also Solski dumb, so...
Well, getting those silvers was really, really nice, considering you only went in with the Master Sword. Estragon wasn't able to pick up the silvers because he never got the mirror.
Yeah.
And we just saw him actually walking out of Ganon's tower after picking up the big key. No way to mirror. But he did pick up a tempered sword.
That's good. Where was the tempered?
Well, we know of 2 swords now, thanks to your scrolling screen. One tempered sword was in the back of pod. You kind of had a nice early pod big key, so kind of got to go mode that. It looks like the dig spot had another one, according to the Flute Boy swings again or something like that was shown.
Yeah, and that was on my mind route, because when I got down from T-Rock, I'm thinking top-bottom route. And then it was actually going to get really nerve-wracking if Bo wasn't there, because initially my choice was going to be, okay, I got to cash in Green Pennant right away and then see what our options are, maybe even a pod play. Ended up getting Titans and Stumpy. I was like, that's King's Tomb now, but wanted to do a quick check of Mire, and then had all the mountain open, because after I did ice, I'm like, okay, well, Mire quick, just to make sure it's not like a quick go mode. And then I saw a hook shot at Old Man, and I knew what was up. I was like, so I think this mirror is a big advantage, and sure enough, silvers on the island was great. So I was like, sweet.
Well, fortunately, not picking up the bow didn't really cost you too much time. You didn't spend a lot of time looking for it. Bow was your go mode.
Right.
Fire Rod was Estragon's, and you kind of both really routed them in very efficiently, and neither of you guys were really on an item hunt. Finding the flippers there on Lumberjack Ledge, though, you must have felt great seeing Swamp Pendant.
Yeah, it was basically experience there that kind of routed me from there, because I knew for Swamp I need a treasure trove of items anyways if I'm worried about that. And with Ice being a crystal, I was like, that's so free to just check and see what that leads us to. So I guess within the logic, we meant to get flippers leading to Ice for Mirror or whatever. Then when I found Hookshot, that wasn't actually required. But really, I kind of avoided it. I'm like, well, if I don't run into Mirror, I don't have to do Swamp. And then I got Mirror. I was like, well, what about Hookshot? And then it was Old Man. But at that point, I had so much left to do that I wasn't even really thinking of it. So it was good.
Well, if I had to narrow down kind of one play that differentiates, Estragon's climbing up. He's on the second Wiz Rope room right now. So he's not all that far behind you. The difference, though, really was you being able to clear those dungeons as you went up, and then you got that early Fire Rod and Catfish, and that was his go mode item, and he kind of put that off for quite a while, too.
Yeah, it's kind of a trade secret to kind of route. I think AJ Neb wrote similar too. I know Ben Teasy wrote similar to me as well. I actually stole a little bit of that route from him doing Hype Cave Pyramid. And then I just decided to add in Quakefish because it's one of those low percent locations. Not a lot of runners check right away. And I feel like if you get Worth, which we did, then it just really helps you out in your route. In this instance, it was Fire Rod, allowing me to clear Skull for the first time when I was there. It was pretty nice. So.
Is that exactly why you end up doing that routing specifically for seeds like this?
I've done it every single match my tournament, so like I said, I'm pretty consistent with it. My opening, if I get Hammer Glove.
It's definitely a little bit non-standard. It definitely threw me off because you did Hype Cave, and then I was looking over at Estragon's screen, and then I saw that you didn't have the mitts were at Stumpy, and I was like, don't you? Like, everyone goes Hype Cave the digging game. That's what you do.
not this guy. Once again, that's just kind of the experience calling rate. Done a lot of these runs now, so.
So, you go in, you're now at 5-2, you're in the brackets. The brackets are going to be randomized as well, so it doesn't matter 5-2, 7-0, or you even get seeded in past the stage. How well do you think playing through the Swiss stage is going to prepare you in case you face a Christos or an Ajneb or a Dude or the other folks that got to bypass the entire Swiss stage? Do you think this helped prep you?
You know what? I'm not really worried at all. Well practiced, done a lot of rando, and I probably have one of the hardest Swiss brackets that any runners had. I mean, like, the math speaks for itself in the tiebreak, and I felt I had a race against like a plethora of great runners. 4 of them were actually 4-2. One was 5-1. That pretty much speaks for itself. So I'm pretty confident and really kind of hoping for ACM or Andy first round actually. So
hoping for an Andy race on the first round.
Hang on,
that's a lot of confidence.
This is where we get our like pro wrestling voice out. It's like, you hear that, Andy? We got Solski coming for you.
we got to cut those heel promos, right, guys? I want you, Andy. I want you.
Exactly.
Man, Rando is missing some good trash talk. I fully admit that.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. But I mean, trash talking aside and all that stuff. Really been a fan of the tournament so far. I've had a lot of fun. So just a quick shout out to you guys, all the volunteers, the admins, everything like that that's made this happen. So it's a lot of fun. Appreciate the work you guys do, and just keep up the great work.
Well, watching matches like this one, it never feels like work. So I'll give you those thanks right back.
No, absolutely. It was so much fun watching a match like this.
And we do have Estragon heading into Ganon. He had 3 or 4 Moldorm 2 falls, unfortunately. So right now he's about 10 minutes behind Solski's time. And this will be a completely different fight than Solski. He's got Tempered Sword, but no silver arrows. So an entirely different strategy. Solski, you absolutely lucked out on that phase 2 positioning there. That was God mode phase 2.
That was awesome. That was pretty great. I was happy about that.
Meanwhile, Estragon is going to have a little bit nicer, all things said.
Yeah, I think most people would probably prefer to do Tempered Silverless than Master Sword with Silvers. The spins in Phase 4 aren't that hard. I think most people would probably say Phase 2 is the hardest, just avoiding all of that Fire Bat damage. And so we didn't really see a traditional Master Sword fight from Solski, just given how perfect that positioning was. He was able to skip multiple Fire Bat cycles. So Estragon in Phase 4 now, just has to do the 12 spins, has got the torch glitch, so.
Getting close here.
Yeah, doing the the slow and steady approach, very consistently getting in 2 spins per cycle. You can use the Fire Rod and get some triples if you position it well, but it's a little bit of an extra gamble. And at this point, I'd say just go for consistency.
I'm on the same page as you. I think there. And there he goes. We'll see. I believe Estragon is here. Let's see if we'll pull him in.
Howdy there.
GG, Estragon. How you feeling after that?
I am feeling... I'm kind of conflicted because I would have felt bad. I lost all that time from that terrible opening, but in the same way, the opening sort of led me to that bizarre routing that kind of got me places early. So I really don't know. It's kind of 6 of one and half dozen of the other.
Yeah, it is worth noting that is something that was you did not have a bomb through escape, and I think you realized that late. You're like, oh wait, I still have to do the escape. So you did King's Tomb, found the bow. You're like, oh, well this is nice, and then then you ended up going. How about that Fire Rod though? That was kind of the thing that held you back there for a while.
Yeah, that was a long time looking for that. I always hate to I went and did Eastern Palace first, getting the second 5/6 crystal, because I always hate to do catfish unless I'm doing it as part of that loop, and so I put it off and I put it off, and sometimes it comes back to bite you.
Yeah, I mean, it did in this case. You did some things that you saved quite a bit of time on. You got to completely avoid Thieves Town. I mean, there was Thieves Town had, I think, it had your second sword, but otherwise you both completely were able to skip Swamp Palace, even though, logically you should have gotten the flippers, theoretically.
Yeah. That flipper location was great.
The only thing that was like keeping that spark of hope alive in me is the possibility that I skipped the flippers and Solski didn't. And other than that, I figured after that opening, I was way behind.
Well, finding the early bow, I think, absolutely worked out, very nicely in your favor. I got to tell you where the mirror was. You want to take a guess?
Oh, let me see. Just for irony, I got to say dig spot since I had shovel.
It was on the right side of Ice Palace.
Oh, okay. That makes sense too.
Yeah.
So somewhere that I could have been, but didn't.
Yeah, Solski went there early and full cleared that dungeon, and you were able to go mode it, so it saved you time there, but deprived you from the silvers, which were just sitting out there taunting both of you guys the entire game.
Yeah, I stole the key in Turtle Rock and skipped that chest. And then when I got to Laser Bridge, I realized, wait, I could find the mirror in here, and then I would be able to get the silver, so I actually really shouldn't have done that. So I guess it's nice that it didn't matter one way or the other.
Yeah, and then flip it around. Because Bo was his go mode, he didn't even dip into Palace of Darkness, really, and the big key was in the front half of that, so he didn't find the Tempered Sword at all. So he was doing Master Sword Silvers there, while you had the Tempered.
Oh, yeah.
So just...
I don't know, though, between Master Sword Silvers and Tempered Silverless, I personally would take Master Sword Silvers.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and it was nice to see both fights as options. Before we wrap things up, I just want to give you the chance, Estragon, to if you have any thoughts on the tournament in general. Now that we're done week 7 of the Swiss, just any final thoughts you want to say?
Oh yeah, it's been fantastic. My first match opponent dropped out. Every other opponent that I've been against has been fantastic. Really close matches and fun matches, all of them. And 4-3 as a final record was about 3 wins more than I was expecting. So I'm really happy with how the entire thing's went.
Well, I was able to commentate your week 2 or week 3 match, so it was nice that I had the opportunity to watch 2 of your races. Very nice execution, making it to 4-3 now. That's excellent progression, and I hope you had a lot of fun, which is the whole point of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely, and good game, Solski. Thanks for giving me a good final race.
Yeah, no problem. Good game.
So I'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Thanks to both Solski and Estragon for putting on the show for us to watch. Links are in chat to follow the runners. Taking a look at the schedule here, there is a race in progress on Speed Gaming 4, Catastrophe versus Gesellschaft. And coming up at 7 o'clock in 20 minutes is a race on Speed Gaming 5, Sabotender versus Scienty, and also on ALTTPR Randomizer 3, TGH versus Zelda. So we got a lot of options for you guys to choose from in the rest of this evening. My thanks to the Speed Gaming staff for managing this restream, getting us swapped over to the other channel. Liam Atlas doing an excellent job on tracking tonight, keeping us all honest here, and my co-commentator Vatasia. It's been a pleasure to join you again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to work with you, Tiru. I don't get to work with you nearly often enough. We always have a good time when we're together.
Absolutely. That is all for me.
Yeah, that'll be all from us. Go ahead and tune in and make sure to follow all the Speed Gaming Network of channels if you're going to tune in for more randomizer action. Lots of good races going on, not only tonight, but for the rest of the weekend. So what are you doing? plan your weekend ahead. You're already going to sit in front of the computer and watch the rest of Twitch. This is going to be such a hype weekend for this bracket stage.
Indeed. So go watch more Rando, and everybody else have a nice night.
Peace.